If you say you ran a marathon, people understand that. It's shorthand for a difficult task. You ran a distance, it was a long one. But what the hell is Everesting? It just doesn't register. So I thought I'd put together some frequently asked questions to help dispel the mystery. Where does this idea come from? The idea of Everesting comes from a group of cyclists called the Hells 500, and they had for years done a lot of ultra endurance type challenges, and they were looking for something new. And the way I've heard it is that the leader of Hells 500 read about George Mallory, the son of the alpinist by the same name, George Mallory, who died on the summit or died trying to summit Mount Everest. And Mallory, the junior, was trying to think of a way to honor his father. And what he came up with was picking a hill and riding his bike to the top, coming down and repeating over and over until he gained the elevation equal to the height of Mount Everest. Hells 500 heard about this, thought it was cool, they started doing it, and it's just become a worldwide phenomenon. Now, Hells 500 is what they call the keepers of the sky, and their website, which is everesting.cc, you can find that in the description, is the central repository for all things Everesting. Most importantly, the list of everyone who has done an Everesting or double Everesting by bike or by foot. Do you actually run up the hill? No. What I'm doing is called a run Everesting, but the run part is a bit of a misnomer. You're really, depending on the hill and the steepness, you're going to be hiking or walking up most, if not all of it. The hill that I chose is out in Telluride, Colorado, and it averages 28% grade. Some parts of it are closer to 40%. There's no running up that incline. That's why I often don't say run Everesting. I say that I am Everesting on foot or doing a double Everesting on foot. Can you sleep during my double Everesting? Yes, but we should back up a little bit. If you want the full rules, go to that website, everesting.cc. Again, it's in the description below. Under those rules, a single Everesting or 29,029 feet of elevation gain has to be completed nonstop without sleep. Each subsequent Everesting that you do in a single activity, you can do 2 hours of sleep for that. So I'm doing a double Everesting. The first 29,000 feet of elevation I have to gain without sleep. After that, I am allotted 2 hours. I can break that up however I want. I could do 1 hour here, 1 hour there, 15-minute naps, whatever I want. Does distance matter at all in Everesting? No. The Everesting challenge is all about that vert. So for instance, of the 12 people who have completed a double Everesting on foot in the world, the distances that they had to travel to gain that 58,000 feet varied widely. Obviously, the steepness of the hill is the main determining factor here. The more gradual the hill, the longer it takes you to gain that elevation. The steeper the hill, the faster you'll gain it. Now, of course, the steeper, it's also going to kill your calves, quads, and butt. So it's really a trade-off. Do you want to go distance or do you want to crush it out fast? Fast being a relative term. Do you have to run back down the hill? Short answer, no. In a run Everesting, you have two options, supported or non-supported. A supported Everesting is where you have some mode of transportation back down the hill other than your feet. So a car or a bike, or in my instance, a gondola on a ski hill that for at least 20 hours of the day I will be riding down. If you do a non-supported Everesting, then yes, you have to walk or hike or run down that hill. In cycling, you do have to come back down the hill on your own power, but that's just coasting on a bike anyway. The reason I chose the hill that I did is because I am only getting back into endurance athletics after years of not doing anything. This challenge is kind of the way to jumpstart that re-entry back into the world. But I had a knee injury for a long time, and that was what was stopping me from doing a lot of things. Now that it's better, while I'm obviously going to test it somewhat by doing such a long distance, I don't want to be doing nothing but running downhill for 48 hours. So I am doing it on a ski hill and Telluride that has a gondola that comes down at least 20 hours of the day. I will have to come down the hill a little bit, but I will be saving my knees quite a bit. And once again, either way, it's all about the vertical gain. How you get down, in a way, doesn't matter. Other than for brownie points. I'm sure there's people out there that think it's not a pure Everesting if you don't come down on your feet. I'm not one of those people right now. How do you pick a good hill for Everesting? Hill selection in Everesting is a much talked about topic. It's one of the central things that people want to know about. If you've done an Everesting, how'd you choose the hill? How did it work out? You know, for me, I'm going to be on the hill likely for 48 hours or more. Of the 12 people who've done a double Everesting, they've averaged 55 hours. So if I even make it, I'm going 2 straight days on this hill. And so I better like it and it better meet certain criteria. First criteria for me, it's steep enough. I'm not interested in having to travel 100+ miles to gain this elevation. I'm more interested in powering it out on a really steep hill. So the hill that I've chosen, just so you know, is approximately 1.1 miles in distance, and it's approximately 1,775 feet in elevation gain each lap. I think the math says that I will have to do it 34 times. So that's not as long of a distance, it's just a much steeper grade. So while that will be hell on my legs, I also won't have to travel 100 or 200 miles to gain that 58,000 feet of vert. Second criteria is bathrooms. I'm going to have to use the restroom. The reason I chose the hill that I did is because it has bathrooms at the top in the gondola station and at the bottom in the gondola station. And so I will never be that far away from relief. My third criteria is interest level. I don't want to do it on a road through the middle of suburbia, for instance. That's not interesting. I'm going to be doing something for 48 hours. I better find something to look around and be fascinated by. And Telluride, Colorado, if you haven't been there, is one of the most beautiful places in the world. And so the views from the top of the hill are incredible. I hope that they inspire me at least a little bit while I become more and more delirious as the challenge goes on. Finally, why do you have to do the Everesting challenge on the same hill? Why can't you just do it on a really long run somewhere and gain that elevation? You know, I don't know the answer for that, but I guess I will venture some thoughts on it. One, I think that the monotony and the boredom of doing the same thing over and over is actually part of the challenge. Yes, gaining a lot of elevation is tough on its own, but there's a mental weariness that I will have to overcome from doing the same thing over and over and over. You know, whenever I'm talking to my wife about this, I get all philosophical sometimes, and I talk to her about Sisyphus, which is the Greek tragedy or the Greek myth, where Sisyphus has done some sort of crime, and he is sentenced to rolling a boulder to the top of the hill, only for it to roll back down, and he has to roll it up and over and over again for eternity. You know, Sisyphus is certainly a symbol for monotonous, tedious tasks. But if you read intellectuals' take on Sisyphus, not that I've read any books about this, but I did look online, they say that his challenge is humankind's search for meaning in an absurd world. And I kind of like that. I'm not sure I'm going to find life's meaning at the top of the hill, but I do hope that I learned something from it. If you have any other questions, reach out to me, comment below. I would love to hear your thoughts.